Feel free to like rename yourself to the title too, so who knows. Hi, Salman. How are you? Oh, hey, Hannah.
Hey.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. Okay, I think that's pretty good. All right. Probably just wait on him to join up. Let me see when he'll actually join.
I'm gonna quickly leave and I'm gonna join back.
Just mute yourself, turn off your camera, and leave. Don't like completely leave because what if sometimes like that sort of thing. Okay, you do you. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
guys.
Hi, Simone. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
uh, do you have any Mun conferences coming up? I heard you're like really into that.
Oh, MUN conferences?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I had one around like 2 weeks ago. So,
Oh, fun. I was supposed to go to one in January, but it got canceled on me. So I'm going to another one in April.
oh, that sucks. It's like youth in government.
Oh no, Georgia doesn't have a chapter. We have one, but like they don't do MUN and stuff, which is weird. We just have like a general Model UN chapter and we sign up as a school.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. So you're gonna have it in April. That's good.
Yeah, because we're going to a high school MUN, which is gonna be interesting.
Well, that's
Let
fine.
me text Zoe and ask him. Okay.
He might be running late.
Yeah, he might be. That's okay though. Let me know when you're joining
Okay, I'm back.
it.
Yeah, I'm telling our members to come up. Not a lot of
Okay,
them
yeah,
are.
I'm asking mine too. Don't worry.
They might be like, I don't know, busy or something right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone I added it to the Slack. I posted into the Slack. I mean, I don't know if anyone really. I mean, it's not been very active, but I put it on there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think yeah, it might not be very active. The Instagram chat might be
Why
more
is
active.
Science Post so funny? Because he used my like wording, but it doesn't fit him. So it's really funny because he's using like the wrong emoji.
Which date is it?
Science,
I'm too lazy. I'm just
the
gonna copy and
general
paste whatever you give
stop.
me.
It doesn't fit him.
Literally, I always just tell you guys,
Hilarious.
just
I
give
can't.
me the exact wording you want, I'll repost it. I do it for every single person. You're just the only one
It's
who
just
gives
you're
unprofessional
missing
wording.
emojis. That's hilarious. You paraphrase mine too.
Why did Zayd put like two hearts? Like holy, like yeah, you're right, Ankita.
I'm right here.
The capitalization makes me laugh. It's not a rush. He's totally fine. Oh
Okay.
my gosh, hi Zo. How are you?
Welcome.
Hey, good. Sorry for being a bit late. I had a work event, and then right after I came to my in-laws, so that's why I'm in a room I'm not used to being in. But I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. Let me
Great.
start with the questions really quick and the introductions.
Sure.
So excited to have you on. All right. Okay, so we're starting. Okay, hi everyone. Okay, so my name is Ankita and I'm the High School Democrats America NHPI Caucus Chair. I'm a Pakistani Hindu and a high school junior from Georgia, so I'm so excited to introduce Austin Councilman Qadri. So Councilman Qadri is a passionate organizer, activist, politician, and so committed to serving his community in Austin, Texas. In 2018, he helped direct political outreach to AAPI voters during Beto O'Rourke's 2018 U.S. Senate run. He later served as a legislative assistant in the Texas House of Representatives. In his career, he's taken on several projects ranging from advising activist groups to utilizing technology to achieve their goals and accomplish tangible results for progressive campaigns. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he volunteered with local community groups such as Austin Needs Water, the Del Val Community Coalition, to make sure that people all throughout Austin had their basic needs met. He also previously served on the advisory committee for the Travis County Democratic Party and the boards of the Austin Muslim Democrats, Asian Democrats of Central Texas, and Engage USA. He currently serves on the board of Ground Game Texas, and in 2022 was elected to represent District 9 in 2022 on the local city council. Councilman Qadri, I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about yourself and why you got into politics.
Great. Well, once again, I appreciate y'all having me. Really happy to be here tonight. Also, very cool that you're also Pakistani. I was speaking at there's an event in Austin. There's a group in Austin called IACT. It's an Indian organization. Really great people. But when I spoke at it, I said, how beautiful is it that only in America could a Pakistani elected official be presenting a proclamation at an Indian event, and I think that's just the beauty of the country. It's also the beauty of who we are in Austin, Texas. But yeah, my name is Zohaib, City Council Member, District 9, Austin, Texas. I always tell folks who don't know anything about Austin that you probably know about District 9 because it's the University of Texas at Austin. It's the largest university in the state. It's a flagship university. District 9 is also downtown Austin. It's South Congress. It's where South by Southwest happens. All the major conferences. It's the coolest part of the city. It also has the Capitol, which isn't so cool just because we have a horrible governor. But it's also where my work is. It's where City Hall is. So it's the heartbeat of the city. But I never thought I'd run for elected office. I moved to Austin to go to school at UT. My father and my mom, and I come from a family of physicians, which is, I guess, not uncommon for South Asians. And I thought I was going to kind of give back to the community that way. I thought that was going to be my way of public service. But when I moved to Austin, I noticed our unhoused population, and I guess I just really, as a teenager, or even now, I still can't fully rationalize it, that how in such a wealthy country, state, city, there's people that when it gets too hot or too cold, they just succumb to the elements and they die. And that really bothered me. That to my core really shook me. So I pivoted away from the medicine route, and I went more into the humanities. Graduated from UT, ended up getting a master's in public administration from Texas State University, and then a master's in global affairs from Rice University. Kind of dabbled in government work. I worked at the city of Kyle, which is the fastest growing city, or was the fastest growing city in Texas about a decade ago. And then also did work at the city of Houston. But when Trump came into office the first go around, and seeing his policies, his rhetoric become policy and how it was affecting communities that looked like mine, I didn't want to stay on the sidelines anymore. So I got more involved in electoral work, which is what you kind of highlighted. Worked on congressional races in the Houston area. I worked for Beto when he ran for Senate in 2018. Worked at the Ledge. Like I said, continued to dabble in that work. Senator Warren ran for president. Ended up working on her campaign. But when I came back, because I worked on her campaign in South Carolina, I came back to Austin, and I think the pandemic really, you really saw two Austins come out of it, right? You saw an Austin for those who have privilege. You saw an Austin that worked for X amount of people, and then you saw an Austin that was just leaving people behind, whether it be students, communities of color, immigrants, undocumented folks, LGBTQIA plus members. It was so jarring on how the city was just failing its most vulnerable communities. So I got involved in a lot of the organizations you mentioned. Austin Needs Water. I mean, there were parts of the city, when you think of Austin, you think of this tech hub and this really, progressive, forward, thinking and functioning city. And there are parts of Austin that on the east side, which is where we have our immigrant communities, our Black and brown communities, that had issues, after winter freezes, where folks were without water for 2, 3, 4 weeks. You saw people who, you saw the death rates of the COVID-19 pandemic hitting communities of color. So I really got, Del Valley is not in District 9, but it was so harshly affected by the pandemic. I spent a lot of time in Del Valley. I spent a lot of time just kind of distributing water and working with other nonprofits, Austin Food Bank, a Capital Area Food Bank. So I think through that, I met so many folks that when we 2020 election happened, Biden got into the White House. People, early 21, people started reaching out to me about, hey, did you ever think about running for any sort of public office? And truthfully, at the time, the person who had reached out to me said, would you want to run for county commissioner? I think you should run for county commission. And I kind of looked into it. I was like, I don't really have any interest in that. But during that kind of research period, I saw, hey, my city council member has been in office for as long as I've lived in Austin, right? They became city council member when I was a freshman in college. District 9, which about half the population of the district are students, about 52,000 folks who attend UT. But I've never really seen youth representation. I've never seen issues that affected younger folks, whether they be college students or fresh out of college grads. I saw a council member that was catering to a specific demographic. So I got really, I got really, I don't know, excited about, hey, maybe I run for city council. So I talked to, at least 500 people. I talked to elected officials, former elected officials, people who had run for office and failed at it. I talked to community leaders, just making sure I was making the right decision, decided to jump in the race. And long story short, it was an open seat for the first time in 12 years. It was 8 people who were running for the seat. No one thought I had a shot, except for maybe me and my team. But we were the youngest. I was the youngest candidate running that election cycle. I'm still the youngest person on the council. We had the youngest team. The average age of a staffer was 22. We were the only unionized campaign out of all the city council races, and including the mayor's race in 2022. We paid everyone a living wage. We raised the most money, had the smallest average contribution size, the most contributions. We're eventually supported by labor, and then we were supported by great folks like Congressman Greg Casar, who represents the Austin area, who's now I think he's the chair of the Progressive Caucus, as well as Senator Warren, who I had worked for, and we were able to win the race. And we've done a lot of really great work, in my 2+ years now on the dais. Around housing, around mobility, around homelessness, around public safety as it relates to not necessarily giving cops more money, which right now Austin has one of the largest police budgets in the country. I was the only council member who voted against a police contract that just passed a few months ago, because I think if we're really going to help those that are unhoused, it's not more cops on the ground. It's making sure that they have the resources around mental health and substance abuse issues that they might be facing. But yeah, I'm really excited about this upcoming year. It's my 3rd year on the council. I was named chair of the Economic Opportunity Committee and the vice chair of the Mobility Committee. And then I really wanted to take more of a leadership as it relates to mobility issues. So I've been, nominated to serve on 2, Austin, but also Greater Austin committees around mobility, which is Campo and Cap Metro. So I'm really excited about doing that work. But yeah, I'm really happy to be here today. Like I said, I'm sorry that I was a bit late. Wanted to get kind of really, through my introduction as quickly as possible and open it up to any Q&A, or if you have any questions, happy to take any and all questions.
So yeah, we will be asking some questions. My name is Zaid Salman, by the way. I'm the vice chair of the Muslim Caucus, the Democratic Muslim Caucus, and I'm Pakistani too. I'm a high school sophomore from New Jersey.
Oh, I was born in Jersey, by the way.
Oh, where?
I was born in Secaucus.
Secaucus, so that's North Jersey. I'm in Central Jersey. We have a lot of dissies over there. So
yeah, my nana, nani, and my aunts and uncles and cousins, they all live in Piscataway now.
Yeah, that's
like New Brunswick.
Yeah, that's basically where every dizzy lives.
You saying nana nani is so nice, because like no one ever says that. It's always me, and I'm like, my parents are like never like. Yeah. My friends are always like, "What do you mean nana nani?" And I'm like,
my grandparents.
Yeah, I just say grandma by my friends. Okay. Anyway, so my question is, how has your identity as a South Asian influenced your career in politics?
Yeah, I mean, so currently I'm the only Asian on the council. Historically, in the history of the city, they've only ever elected one Asian before me, but I'm the first South Asian, first Muslim on the council. So I think, honestly, even before getting into elected office, I was often the only brown face in the room. Austin's a very, liberal city. It's quote unquote progressive, but honestly, on some issues, it's not super progressive. But despite that, there's not as much diversity as one would think or hope, especially in Democratic circles. So, often being the only person, in the room has had its benefits, but also at times you see like microaggressions against South Asian, Muslim folks. And now being on the dais, I think it's given me an opportunity to educate my colleagues and also constituents and other folks who are deeply involved in the city about, what does it mean to be South Asian or Muslim? What does it mean? When Ramadan happened, my colleagues kept trying to give me water. I was like, I can't drink water. And then they would give me like sticks of gum. And I'm like, I can't chew gum. So it was like a real educational opportunity. I had a colleague of mine, I was at a conference with them and we were in the car and they're like, oh, so you're Muslim? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, so that's like the same thing as being like Hindu or Sikh or this or that. And I said, oh, no, they're all very different. They're all beautiful religions, but very different. And I had to like explain like the difference between each one. And like, they had no idea. So it's a real learning opportunity, but, I will also say among certain groups, right, they don't like seeing people who are Muslim or who are brown in office. I mean, when I was running for office, I would, I was using Vance. I was knocking on, triple D, Dem voters. And people would answer the door and they would look at my lit and they'd be like, oh, you don't sound like, you belong here, right? Your name doesn't sound like an Austin name. Like I could never vote for someone who has your name. And this was the same person who had a Bedoya art sign, who had that sign in their front lawn that says like, in this house, we believe, love is love and, all that stuff. But like for them, like they couldn't comprehend someone, a brown face after representing them on the city council. And, being on council when it comes to, especially honestly since October 7th, the amount of Islamophobia that comes my way, both from Republicans and Democrats, getting death threats on the, on the dais, and for a while having security, which I never thought would be, a concept, on the local level. My job is to make sure you could get from point A to point B, that you're able to afford the, roof above your head. And if there's something wrong with your street, or there's something wrong with like, I don't know, your electricity, that, we're supposed to get on top of it. But, starting to get death threats was kind of, almost surreal. So, I think it's a beautiful opportunity, being South Asian, being Muslim, to educate folks, but it also comes with, people who don't want to see you in this space.
So, as an add-on, I mean, I'm Muslim too, and I wanted to know, like, how does your position connect to your duties as a Muslim?
Yeah, I mean, I think just in the general sense of like values of empathy, caring for those that are least among us. I mean, one thing that I would often say on the campaign trail, which I I would think about from almost a religious perspective, is we should be judged as a society on how we treat the least among us. That's why a big component of my campaign, and also being in office, a lot of the items that we brought forward and passed during the budget cycle, but also items that we bring forward, council meeting to council meeting, has to do around homelessness, right? It has to do, how do we get people, my office, myself, we passed an item around setting up a mental health diversion center. It's the first mental health diversion center in the history of the city of Austin. Our office worked on that. We worked on getting street outreach workers on the streets and getting help, basically being on the ground and getting unhoused folks, resources, whether, getting connected to a loved one, whether getting into shelter, whether getting any sort of help around mental health or substance abuse issues. Like our office brought that around. We've also been working on bringing items forward just to get permanent supportive housing for our unhoused community. So that, and a lot of people, honestly, on the right get really upset at me that, why do you care so much about homeless people? Because they don't have anything. And if we really want to live our values as a city, and if I really want to live my values as someone of the Islamic faith or any faith, you help those that don't have anything.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I definitely see a lot of the same things mirrored in like the Hindu faith as well. I would love to ask the next question. So what do you believe are some of the most impactful moments in your career thus far?
Yeah, that's a great question. So some of it might be a little bit wonkier. We passed, so Austin, still is. I mean, I think we've chipped away at a good amount, but there's definitely a housing crisis. There's definitely housing crunch. But we've been able to put forward a lot of policy that has lowered the cost of living in the city. Our office brought forward an item around eliminating parking mandates, which doesn't eliminate parking. It simply just doesn't necessitate X amount of parking to be built, right? Often you have an excess of parking, and that in each parking spot that's often built costs between $5,000 to $10,000. And then if you do the math, that cost falls on the renter or the homeowner. So by limiting that, it decreases the burden on a renter or homeowner. We've made it easier to build housing in the city. We've pushed for transit, more equitable transit. Building housing by transit stops. So things like that, mean a lot to me. We talk to students as a candidate. We talk to students as an elected official. Austin was one of the last cities to outlaw windowless bedrooms. So when I got into office, if you go to the University of Texas at Austin, there are thousands of units that are built that are bedrooms without windows. That's a safety hazard. God forbid there's a fire, you're not going to get out. And it's also just a mental health issue where you're basically in this box. So other cities that outlaw windowless bedrooms like over 100 years ago. Austin hadn't. It was a loophole in the code. So we came forward and we outlawed windowless bedrooms, which obviously helps students. We also there was this thing around occupancy that if only X amount of people who are related to one another can live under the same roof. Obviously, that's discriminatory towards not traditional families, immigrant families, students, right? But I don't think most students are living with like their siblings or cousins. I mean, maybe some are. But making sure that that's not there, so it's easier for folks to kind of live together. So it's policy that I'm really proud of, but at times it's just kind of going back to some of the questions, just the representation aspect. Going into rooms. Often I work with labor unions, and there's a significant Afghani population in Austin because after the country fell to the Taliban, we got a lot of refugees, and a lot of them called District 9 home. So at times the most meaningful moments are random interactions. So I've gone to these labor events, and majority of the people there, the workers, are Hispanic, so Spanish is a big thing. And then there's like a small but large segment of Afghani workers who don't understand because it's English, Spanish translations, and they're kind of lost. So I speak very bad Urdu, but I speak Urdu. And they also speak Urdu, and it's also very bad. But we were kind of able to I was able to kind of translate what was being said during these like labor meetings to them, and have been in touch with that population. So for me, like stuff like that's meaningful. When I first got into office, there was a South Asian gentleman who had been missing for about 10 days. Didn't live in my district. Their families had reached out to all the other council members. No one had responded. But when they reached out to us, I responded, and I worked with that family for 10 days, trying to locate their loved one. Unfortunately, we ended up finding their loved one in the river. They had drowned, but just during that time, getting to know this family, seeing the love that they had for their child, for their son, for their friend, and even since that tragedy, which happened about 2 years ago now, we've worked with that family to push for better safety conditions in our entertainment district. So better street lighting, better cameras, fencing, signage. So it's like moments like that where where humanity and policy kind of come together, and then you see work being done that to me is the most meaningful.
Yeah. The points here are definitely ones that are important to address. You definitely emphasized the need for addressing the housing crisis. How do you plan to involve younger residents in discussions and decisions about housing policies? Because most likely it's Gen Z and generations after that will be dealing with the rising housing crisis as of right now.
Yeah, so we work a lot with the university, and there's a tenants union. There's a tenants. I'm sorry if you could hear the peeps. There's a tenants union on campus that was started with the work that we were doing as an office. So it's the first time in the history of the University of Texas that there's a UT students tenants union. So working with those students has been great. They're ranging from like 17 to I guess like 24. Some grad students, a lot of undergrad students. So making sure that they're kind of at the forefront of the policy that we're making. So a lot of times when we bring forward policy, we're having policy discussions. It goes from like town hall or one-off meeting to we hear what their concerns are, what issues are important to them. Can we bring forward a policy around this? Or can we bring forward actual not a proclamation, but like it's something that actually has teeth into it. And that is then how we often like write our policy, then we get stuff through. So, having an open dialogue and an open door with folks is really important. We have internships, year round with high school students and UT students, or college students. It doesn't have to be UT. There's also community colleges in the area and other universities. So that's how we're kind of keeping everyone in the loop, and kind of making sure that people are engaged. Like we've reached out to colleges in the area, high schools in the area, around town halls. We've had town halls that are very much like youth led, which to me is really exciting and really fun to be a part of. So that's how we've kind of, I don't know if I've answered your question great, but that's how we've kind of kept like younger folks a part of the process. And, my staff, doesn't have any high school kids, but is the youngest staff at City Hall. And we're, like I said, we're continuously doing outreach among like high school and college age. So I go to classes, I'll go and speak at a class at St. Ed's University or UT or Austin Community College, but I'll also go to speak at like a junior high or a high school, just kind of telling them the importance of local politics, because I think local politics, it's so intimate. It affects you on a daily basis. It's not the sexiest politics. It's not what they see going on at the Capitol. It's definitely not what's going on in DC, but like if we do something really good, like you're going to see that happen in real time, and it's going to affect you and your loved ones in real time. And if we don't do anything and we sit on our hands, like that pain, that lack of action affects you in real time. So, I think just kind of stressing, local politics, it's cool. It's important, especially when you have a really bad state government and a really bad federal government. Like local politics is often at saving grace.
The beats are still happening. That's really funny.
Sorry.
No, you're all good. Okay. I would love to ask our next one. What is one thing that you wish you could change about your role as city councilman?
That's a great question. I'm really happy where I am, in the sense that after I got elected, literally after I got elected, even before the first day that I served, I had reporters reaching out to me and they're like, what are you running for next? And I said, well, I just want to do a good job in these 4 years. And if I do a good job, I want to run for re-election. And then recently, after my second year ended, I had reporters reach out to me and be like, oh, are you interested in running for State House, State Senate? And I said, nope, just really excited about my re-elect, really looking forward to it. And I don't say that just so they stop calling me and texting me and emailing me. I say it because I mean it. I think, I really enjoy the work that I do. I enjoy working with my colleagues. I enjoy, the policy, just the day-to-day policy, work that's done. What I don't enjoy, which I wish I could change, but I think it's a larger discussion, and I think it's going to take, a lot of electoral work, is I hate the state government. They passed last session, which is 2 years ago, they passed a bill that was a preemption bill, a state preemption bill, but it was called the Death Star bill. So it basically took away a lot of local control, a lot of stuff that we can do at the local level. We know that this current session, which started last month and goes up until May, that the governor and a lot of state reps and state senators who don't even live in Austin, who don't even represent Austin, are going to attack Austin, go after, light rail in the city, go after a lot of the progress we've made on housing. They've passed really archaic bills that target like local elected officials. They have this, this doesn't affect me directly, but they have like a rogue DA bill that if a DA doesn't do what, basically the governor wants them to do, that they could be removed from office. So I hate our state government. So I'm hopeful that we eventually flip the state house We eventually flipped the state senate. We eventually flipped the governor's mansion. But I love the work that I do. I just wish we didn't have such a mean group of people like right down the street from us.
Yeah, it's like a lot. I guess the Texas state government really needs to change,
Yeah, it really
especially
does.
the governor's mansion.
Yeah.
So my question was reflecting on your journey from like a student at the University of Texas to like a city council member, how has your perspective on youth engagement evolved?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a student at UT, I felt like the city council member at the time who was so the way that Austin works is that you get 2 terms. Each term is 4 years, and then you're termed out, so it's 8 years. But there's like a weird thing in the charter that you could petition indefinitely to be on the ballot. So my predecessor did her 8 years, or her 2 terms, and then she petitioned for a third term. So she got 12 years and 3 terms. And what I had heard before even when I was thinking about jumping in the race, was that she might petition for a 4th term, which I thought was also just ridiculous. Like, leave. But the thing that I thought was one of the things that was one of my driving factors was that she was a city council member my whole time when I was a student at UT. And whether it had to do with safety around students, whether it had to do with housing, mobility, whether it had to do with, winter storm that left people without power, without food, whether it had to do with flooding in the West Campus area, she was not responsive. I don't think she ever set foot on UT campus until it was time for election and she had to get votes. And that really upset me. And I told myself I wasn't going to be like that as a candidate. So it wasn't that we spent more time at UT or around the university. We just gave every neighborhood, every precinct an equal amount of time, and that included students. So you did not have a greater voice in our campaign. Your concern wasn't that much more important because you were a 50-year Austinite and you had lived in the city and you were 3 generations and all that. Like, if you were in Austin for 1 month or 1 year or 10 years, like, your voice to us was just as important. And we made sure that the issues that students cared about when I was a candidate were highlighted and were uplifted. And then when we got into office, like I said, we continued to work with students. We work with this tenants union, but we're constantly engaging with student groups and student government, and the university itself has even though it's in Austin, Governor Abbott appoints basically the board of regents, who then appoint the president. So it's a very right-leaning leadership. But we work with the students who are affected on a daily basis. And like I said, a lot of the policy that we've done that's around student housing, mobility issues, public safety issues, it's because we're continuing to keep students at the forefront.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. A lot of what we do is in focus in engaging high schoolers nationally. So doing it on the local level is even more important because you can actually meet them in person and all of that. You did continuously mention something related to mobility. What do you mean exactly by that?
Just mobility in general?
Do you mean by transportation or?
Yeah, so Austin is now, I think, the 10th or 11th largest city. We keep going back and forth, I think, between San Jose maybe, or I forgot. Someone keeps leapfrogging us, and then we leapfrog them, and vice versa. But we're a big city, right? We have over 1 million people. District has 110,000 people. But the way that the city has been built, it's not very, it's not a car-free city. You need a car to get from point A to point B, which isn't great for the environment, which isn't great for traffic, which doesn't help when it comes to pedestrian safety. Honestly, doesn't make our road safer. So what we've been pushing at as an office, and what a lot of my colleagues are pushing for, is an increased number of bike lanes, right? Protected bike lanes, better sidewalks, better lighting, more rapid bus routes, more we have a light rail system, but it only goes, honestly, I don't think it really touches the east side much, right? So it's almost in only the well-to-do parts of town, right? So having an expanded, more equitable light rail system that goes throughout the city, and is not just, like I said, in the well-to-do parts, right? It's on the east side and it's on the west side, and it goes to the airport and the university, and it goes North Austin, but also South Austin. So really been fighting for an expansion or a light rail system, which for whatever reason the state doesn't want Austin to expand. But I think what our goal as an office and as a council is to get as many people outside of their car as possible, and using the bus, the light rail, riding a bike, going out for a walk on a trail. Obviously, there's cases where you have to use your car. It's just a sad reality of the city and just the way that things are. But I think getting as many people out of their cars and into other modes of transit is what we're kind of looking to, what we're championing, and what we're looking to make like a real reality. Like anytime I go to DC, and maybe, I don't know if anyone here is from DC or visited, and maybe DC isn't a great example, but for a person who doesn't have great public transit in their city, I love DC, right? I'll land in Reagan, or I'll land in Dulles. I'll take the metro to where I need to go, and then I'll either be walking everywhere or taking the metro, and then when I'm going back to the airport, I just take the metro back. Like that's what I wanted to see Austin eventually, kind of do.
Yeah. Honestly, Georgia is kind of the same. In Gwinnett County, a county nearby, they were trying to pass a referendum that would allow them to actually expand transportation systems, but it failed, which really sucks because that would have definitely increased a lot of the mobility within that actual county. But sad to say that did not work out as well as we should, as well as it should have.
Yeah.
But just as
there's a real
yes.
there's a real car lobby, right? As in, I was talking to a council member from Indianapolis. His name is Nick Roberts. He's like 24 years old. I think he's like one of the youngest council members in the country, definitely in the city of Indianapolis. And he said that the state has done something that directly, just the state of Indiana has done something that directly, that specifically only affects Indianapolis, and that they're not allowed to build any light rail, which I think is wild. So yeah, there's definitely groups of people who kind of want the status quo to remain because it benefits their pocketbook. That's why you often see highway expansions happening throughout the country. Well, I'd rather, like, I was in Japan a year and a half ago, right? And I was able to like take high-speed rail like throughout the whole country. I'd love to do that in Texas, like from like Houston to Dallas to San Antonio to Austin, or take it outside of the state. But I think there's so many people and so many forces at play that don't want to see that be a reality for some odd reason.
Yeah, it's definitely mystifying for sure. Before we close out with the prepared questions and move on to general Q&A, I'd like to pass on one last question to Zaid. Yeah.
Great.
So the question I wanted to ask was, what advice would you give to young individuals aspiring to make a difference in local governance and community advocacy?
Yeah, I would just tell folks to get involved, right? I think there's often, especially for like, I think Asians, South Asians, anyone who looks like anyone who's on this call, there's often a fear of jumping into in the process, right? Like the fear of the unknown. And my advice is just do it. If you're not going to do it, no one else is going to do it. And I think there needs to be voices like ours and faces like ours, whether it be serving on boards and commissions, whether it's volunteering on local campaigns, whether it's showing up to City Hall and testifying, on a bad bill or testifying for a good bill, whether it's like rallying, leading marches and all that, whether it's interning in the building or working in the building, my advice is to just get involved. Like, I remember when I first was kind of getting involved in the process, and it wasn't even local government. It was even working at the state. Like I didn't know where to go. Everyone I talked to wasn't in the space. And I worked one session at the Texas Capitol, but I like emailed every single state rep. I contacted every office. I went to the Capitol, and there's not that many Democrats in the state ledge, but like there's 50 some odd. I went to every person's office and said, "Hey, I want to work for you." Right. Thankfully one person took me up on it. So don't be afraid of rejection. Don't be afraid of the unknown. Just put yourself in weird, awkward places and positions and circumstances. And once you are there for a day and then 2 days and then 10 days and then so forth and so on, it just becomes repetitive. Like you get comfortable, right? Whether you're, like I said, an intern, a staffer, or you're in office, but unless you make that initial jump, unless you take that risk, you'll never know what's going on, right? You only know what you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually did not get involved in politics until May of last year, so everything's also super new to me as well.
Yeah.
But I'd love to open it up to general Q&A. If anyone has any questions that they've been holding until now, feel free to ask. We'd love to hear it. So I'd go for it.
Yeah, see your hand up.
So thank you for coming to this event, though. My question was sort of, as a fellow Muslim in politics, October 7th was a very contentious time for our community. How has just the after effects of what happened in Gaza affect, like, how you were treated by your fellow colleagues in city council and your fellow Democrats, etc.?
Yeah, great question. So myself and two other council members, we have 10 council members and the mayor, so there's 11 of us on the dais. So me and two of my colleagues, issued a statement, being for a ceasefire, release of hostages, all that. I was very thankful for those who kind of signed on to this letter with me. So really appreciate those two colleagues. But overall, even the people who didn't sign on to that were very supportive. People were coming. God, it must have been for a few months after October 7th. I was getting death threats. So I was having security outside of my home. I had to have someone walk me to my car and, walk me out. I wasn't allowed to even walk around City Hall super freely, just because of the fear of someone, it's Texas, and, and unfortunately you could bring a gun into City Hall, which is wild to me. There was definitely a lot of, hesitance on my end, right? We stopped a lot of in-person events for a while, just because I was getting threats, and I didn't want to find out if the person who was making the threats was going to be good on it or not. I think my colleagues were supportive of me. Like I said, especially the two that signed on to the letter. Those same two colleagues then went with me, and we met with Palestinian folks and Muslim folks in the city. We continued to do work. The two of them just went to the mosque that I attended in Austin. Two of them went to recently. Just really immersing themselves in the community, getting to know the people, and helping them, even honestly outside of what's happening in Gaza, right? How do we help and support our Muslim community in Austin, Texas? I think when it comes to fellow Democrats, I think there was a lot of support. Congressman Lloyd Doggett and Congressman Greg Casar were very kind and gracious and very supportive. When the student protests were happening at universities, myself and Congressman Casar went to UT, and we spoke out about, against the brutality that often these students were being met with. Having someone like Congressman Casar, in my corner was very comforting. So, I'm very appreciative of my colleagues. I'm appreciative of Democrats in Austin. And I think what my hope is the ceasefire that's in place continues, that, Netanyahu and his crazy right-wing government doesn't, go back to, killing people. And my hope is that in Austin, that the colleagues that I've mentioned, and honestly, even other people maybe who have been a little bit more quiet, that they continue to do the outreach and listen to voices of people who are in pain, and look at what solutions can we do to alleviate that pain, here in Austin, Texas.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, he was going to say it. My bad. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. My name is Swan Zeb. I'm also a Pakistani Muslim.
Great.
I'm a senior in high school, the chair of the Muslim Caucus, and I also live in New Jersey.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was I'm a senior in high school right now, and I'm going to college in a few months, and I'm getting my decisions back and everything. So I was wondering Thank you. I want to go into politics and government, and like you're kind of like really inspirational in that sense. Like, what's your advice in like navigating like being Muslim and like advocating for yourself in college? Like, how do you go about being active in your community and like kind of like the students' protests that have been going on? Like, what's your advice like going into college and going into like kind of like the greater world? Like,
Yeah, that's a great question. I just out of curiosity, are you potentially going to stay in New Jersey or are you going to go out of state?
I applied early decision to Swarthmore College. I don't know if you know of it, and it's coming out next week. So I might stay in New Jersey or I might go like Pennsylvania, but probably within the tri-state area.
Oh, tri-state area. Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, I think college is just such a. I'm 34 now, so I feel like very old right now on this call. But I feel like college is just the most exciting time because it's just a blank slate. Like, do whatever you want to do, and join the clubs and go to events and organizations and protests. Especially, at the current time that we live in, like don't be afraid to do anything. I know there were a lot of people when the protests were happening around UT. I mean, around the country, but at UT, and there were people that were just afraid about, oh, what if I go in and it's going to affect me and this and that. I'm like, the only person that's going to look at that if you went to a protest and then doesn't want to hire you are probably people you don't want to work for anyway. So don't be afraid to make good trouble, right? It's a John Lewis quote, but I think you have an opportunity to meet so many people and do so many things, network like crazy. It's a good time. I mean, truthfully, when I was in college, I wasn't I wasn't politically engaged as in, oh, I'm a Democrat and I'm gonna vote and I'm gonna volunteer on a campaign. But I knew what was right and I knew what was wrong, right? If I saw homeless people being arrested and being harassed by cops and having their tents thrown away, I'm like, that's wrong, right? If I saw Black people, being shot and killed by APD, I'm like, that's wrong, right? If I saw Muslim Jewish people being threatened to their houses of worship, I'm like, that's wrong. So there was ways that I didn't really think about until I got older. That hey, I was kind of an activist, right? I was political, right? Because everything is political in this world. That even without like being a part of necessarily a Democratic club at the time, like I was just really active on my campus. So I think my little brother is actually also a senior in high school, and he's waiting on getting his decisions and this and that. And my thing is like, no matter where you go, like you can make the best of it, right? You don't have to go to UT. You could go to UTSA, or you could go to University of Houston, or you could go to Texas Tech. Like it doesn't, wherever you go, it's what you make of it. I think you have an opportunity to do great things, wherever in the tri-state area. And it's an exciting time, and it's not a time that you necessarily know what you're going to do when it's even over, which is still an exciting thing. And I feel like I'm constantly learning and almost like constantly almost being a student in my interactions with people and learning a little bit more. So yeah, I'm almost envious of you. I kind of wish I could go back in time and be a student again. But enjoy it. One thing I'm going to do, because I always want to be a resource to I guess like the next generation up. I'm gonna drop my email, so everyone feel free to shoot me an email. But one thing I don't know if anyone on here is from Texas, but one thing our office does every summer is we do college interns in the fall and the spring, and then every summer we do high school interns. They're from all over. So I don't know if you want to spend a summer in Austin, Texas, please reach out to our office. But I really want to be a resource, whether that means letting people know when there's an internship or a job opportunity, whether it's talking to myself or maybe someone else I know in the political world, talking about what a career in this space means, whether from a campaign perspective, official side perspective, working at the Capitol, working in City Hall, or working in DC. Like I really want to be helpful, because I see everyone on this call, whether you are eventually an elected office or not, just playing a really significant role in their community.
Yeah. If you would like to, do you have a possible like link that you use for these internships? Because we usually have like an opportunities chat, and we love to drop that in our Slack and stuff as well.
Oh yeah. If you actually just email, so we don't have anything from our official side yet. But if you email the email that I just dropped, you could actually, there might be people who want to intern on the official side. then I could kind of resume collect and then pass it off to my chief of staff. And then if you want to intern, or if someone would be interested in interning on the campaign side, you could just email that email as well.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds cool. I'll definitely drop that in the chat later tonight. Thank you so much for offering.
Of course.
Is there any other questions from the audience?
I think Naman is raising his hand.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, my name's Noman Habib. I just recently joined the Muslim Caucus like 1 or 2 months ago. I'm a sophomore from Illinois, and my ethnicity is kind of confusing because my mom, she was born in Canada, my dad, he was born in Jeddah, but both of their parents are Hyderabadi Indian, so
Oh,
like
nice.
it's like a mix of everything. And I just wanted to ask you, like, what was it getting like elected as like the first Muslim, or like running for office as a Muslim? Because I do youth in government, and next year I want to run for lieutenant governor. And from like what I know, I'd be the first Muslim to run, and I have like a strong chance. Like I'm confident that I can get elected. And like the last time someone from my delegation was elected to like state office was in 2021, but it wasn't too long ago. But we did have like 3 people run last year, and they all lost to like these 3 really big schools who like powered through the elections every year because of like their massive delegations. So I just like wanted to know what it was like.
Just running as a Muslim candidate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it had its unique, pluses and minuses. I think a positive was that you saw, fun fact, the second largest religion in Austin is Islam. I mean, it's like Christianity, and then it's like Islam is like all the way on the bottom, and then it's like below that a little bit is like Judaism, and then Hinduism, and kind of goes from there. So it's not like there's a lot of Muslims, but it's like it's a fairly large population. But what I saw was, community kind of getting behind me, kind of being excited, and younger folks just really being inspired. We had so many folks who reached out to work on the campaign, intern with the campaign, volunteer with the campaign. Honestly, I'm not, like I said, I'm Muslim Pakistani, but the amount of like Indian folks who reached out, or Hindu folks who reached out, like like they were like, in their eyes, like I'm one of them, right? So that was obviously great and a beautiful thing. The negative things were obviously just the Islamophobia, the othering, right? And I said it earlier in the conversation. People, when I would knock on their door and give them a piece of lid, and they would see the name like Zohaib, Qadri, they'd be like, "Oh, that's not a name that I could vote for. That's not a name that you see in Austin, Texas, or that's not a name that I want to see represent me." And there were people who, when I would talk about, during candidate forums, often a question that would come up would be about like, struggles of being a Muslim in America. And I would talk about, Islamophobia that I had faced or witnessed, or family members or loved ones had faced or witnessed. And there would be people in the audience who were like, these were democratic forums, but there would be people in the audience who would be laughing, hearing some of those stories. It was just really disheartening. And then I think, you still see those trolls, whether it be Democrat or Republican, who continue to other and, truthfully be very Islamophobic, in my 2+ years on the council. But, you take it with a grain of salt. That's not my audience. Those aren't the people who elected me. My job is to do good by the people, of District 9, and to be a good representation of what, this is what it looks like to be South Asian. This is what it looks like to be Muslim in local government, or any form of government, actually. Great.
Yeah. Would there be anyone else from the audience who also still has a question?
Happy to answer any and all questions.
I have a question. Kind of pivoting from like the previous questions. If you were to summarize or like capture your message to HSDA members in 5 words, what would it be?
What would
That's a very hard question, Loki.
Yeah, what would my message be in 5 words to HSDA members?
Yeah.
Hold on, don't be afraid to.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, I think I got it. Don't be afraid to run. And that doesn't necessarily mean run for office. It could mean running outside. No, but like just don't be afraid to get into it, right? Don't be afraid to put yourself. Now this is more than 5 words now, but don't be afraid. And I said this earlier in a different question. Don't be afraid to put yourself in like awkward, weird situations, right? Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I think running for office is the weirdest thing in the world. I think having to ask people for money is the weirdest thing in the world. I think knocking on doors is the weirdest thing in the world. I think going to these events and speaking in front of like hundreds of people, thousands of people at times is the weirdest thing in the world. But like you got to do it, right? And at times, I'll kind of end it with like almost a lighthearted story. I hated public speaking when I was in high school. Like I hated any sort of like anytime I didn't want to raise my hand in this class because I didn't want to talk. So it's kind of weird that I got into a thing where like every other week I have to speak on the council and I have to go to these neighborhood events and this and that. But there is this one lady who like hated me when I was a candidate. Like she was number one person in the whole city who like hated my guts. And like she terrified me. Like I did not want to run into her at events or anything. So I obviously won. And we had a winter storm that happened. And me and my chief of staff were making house visits. Anyone who had like reached out to our office. So we went to this lady's house, knocked on her door. She opened it. I said my name. My chief of staff said her name, but I guess she might have been hard of hearing, so she didn't hear me say my name. So she starts like venting about me to my face. She's like, "I hate your boss. He's a horrible person. He doesn't care about me. If he had any decency in his body, he would be right here, right now, where you are, talking to me and helping me out." And she like spends like the next like 30, 45 minutes just like yelling at me, but not knowing it's me. She's yelling about my boss. So she yells, and me and my chief of staff talk to her. We take care of her issue, and then she's like so like touched and so impressed. She's like, "Listen, I hate him. He's a horrible person, but he hired 2 good staffers." So she's like, "I'll make you cookies." She made us like chocolate chip cookies. And then we were like walking out, and she's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name." She said it to me. So I was like, "Okay, do I make something up or do I tell her who I am?" So I said, "Oh, I'm actually the council member." And she like literally almost dropped the cookie she had in her hand, and she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I say that story is because before I was a candidate and I was even thinking about running, and I had come across this lady, and just the vitriol that would often come from her. Like I would, a sane person would be like, "I'm not going to run." But my whole thing is like, basically don't think about it, just run, like just do it. Just do it. And my thing is, you kill people with kindness and you do the good work, and eventually all the struggles and worries and how much you might hate public speaking or talking to people kind of go away over time.
Yeah, that's interesting. But we will be taking one more question after this.
Sure.
So Sid.
Hi, Zoe. I had a quick question. You spoke about like financing for your campaign at first. What were like some of the hurdles and how did you go about like financing when you first started your campaign?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll talk about like the highs, which is where the kind of the final results, but like it wasn't easy to get there. So eventually we ended up raising like $185,000. It was the most money ever raised for a first-time candidate. We had the average, smallest contribution size, most individual contributions, all that good stuff. But initially, when I first started raising, initially when I launched my campaign and I was raising money, like it was hard, right? You initially have your, Rolodex, which your Rolodex is often your phone. And I was going through, people that I had gone to college with or high school with. It was reaching out to family members and friends. And then after that, you kind of hit a wall, right? Because you only know so many people. So then you're basically doing cold outreach, right? So then I'm like pulling lists and I'm having my data director pull lists of people who donated to like progressive elected officials or squad members or this or that. And then you call through that list, and then, often people are like, "Oh, it's city council. Okay. Like, I'm not interested in donating to a city council race," or like they think I'm running for Congress and they get really excited. Then I have to clarify I'm not running for Congress, and then I'm like, "Oh, never mind. Like I don't want to donate to you." So it was really hard. I mean, I remember, and I say this out of complete love. Now a lot of these they see uncles who didn't believe, like the hardest people to get donations from at a point, like I would say the first few months, and then eventually got easier once they saw the that this is a campaign that could win, and seeing the endorsements and all the support. But the hardest money at first were from Daisy uncles, because they would say, you're too young, you're not a lawyer. For whatever reason, they all wanted me to become a lawyer, so they said, go back to law school. So I said, okay, I guess I have to go to law school now. And they set out, and they basically said, you need to wait, right? Because you're not someone who a lot of people knows, and you're not going to be able to cash the big checks. And my message was always, listen, I'm not the rich guy, right? I'm not the person, like, I'm not the establishment pick. I'm not going to be getting all the maxed out donations. But if we build a messaging and we resonate with so many people, we're just going to outwork, out hustle, outlast everyone. And everyone's going to feel like this is their campaign, right? So whether it's a person who gave $1 or the person who gave $100, like this is their campaign. So I think that's, as cheesy as it sounds, like, it was such a grassroots campaign. Like, I might never meet some of the people who donated to the campaign. Like, some of the people literally donated like 50 cents to the campaign, or like $1.50. But like, for me, I'm like, you take away any one donation, you take away any one person, like, we don't win. So, on election night, when I won, and when I spoke at the council meeting after winning, I said, everyone, whether you knocked on one door, or you made one phone call, or you sent out one text, or you donated $1, everyone can take credit for the reason why I won, right? And they would all be right. Because you take away one group of people, or you take away one person, then I might not be here. So it was very much, it was so grassroots that, I'll never be the candidate who has a bunch of like millionaire and billionaires donating to him. But I don't need that, right? Like, already kind of going back to some of the comments people have made, after October 7th, like, I've had people, reach out saying, oh, we're gonna run someone against you, or I'm gonna spend $50,000 and find someone to run against you, and all these like random threats that I keep getting. And I'm like, oh, that's fine, like, do it. Because I think it's, people always beats money. And that's my hope. That's what I've seen happen in the past. And that's what I hope happens in 1 year when I'm running for re-election. So.
Yeah. Thank you again so much. Before we do go, I would love to grab like a quick photo. Let me see if I can do that.
This is gonna be very interesting. I mean, I have a feeling like he is that person that at the end of every event to get a group
I
photo, but we're on
do.
a Zoom and she's gonna still try to get a group photo, which is gonna be
I'm so
interesting.
bad at like taking screenshots, but if you're able to do it, like, all the power to you.
Screenshots is hilarious. I just make it work. I don't know.
God. Okay, if you can, everyone like
turn on your cameras.
turn on their
Also,
screen.
my
We'll see
tech
if,
is like crashing out on me. If someone else can do it, that would be great.
I'll do it. I'll do it because I'm
Okay,
the
does it
best.
actually work? Like, can you see everyone? Please.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Did you get it?
Okay, I did it.
Great.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, you
I'm
guys all
gonna
had great smiles. I'm not sure the glasses for you, Hannah, came. I'll check.
I'm gonna drop
yeah, just kidding. They did.
I'm gonna
Okay,
drop
yeah.
my email one more time, and then I dropped my I think I dropped it. I thought I saw it somewhere. Did it not go through? I guess not.
Yeah, I actually already sent your
Oh, did.
opportunity in our Slack channel. So.
Oh, great. Yeah, I sent the email again, and I sent my social media at. So like I said, feel free to message, follow. Like I said, I really do want to be a resource. And if it's, maybe it's not something that I could directly help with, but I know state reps in Texas, and if you want to intern at the Capitol in Texas, Austin's a great city. Our state is not great, but Austin's great. So if anyone ever wants to come down to Austin, Texas, just let me know.
Yeah, my mom was born in Texas, to be honest, which is the most interesting. But yeah, time to go unhinged.
Yeah, Texas is great. But yeah, I'll probably be in Jersey. I'll be in Jersey in July. I go like at least twice a year, so I'll be there.
Yeah, avoid Central Jersey at all costs, please. Especially Edison or something. Like, do not go near. Edison
wild,
is,
bro. I've lived in Texas for like 3 years.
Yeah, Texas is great. I do like Jersey. I just it's just I don't know. I'm a Texan at heart now, I guess, but I'm a Yankees fan, so.
Edison is literally just India.
Great.
How could you be a Yankees fan? The Mets are so much better.
No, I just
Oh
grew up.
wow, Mets. Yeah, I'm a Mets
Oh,
fan too, but you know what?
Yeah, I was in
It's better I
Jersey.
don't talk about sports. I'm a fan of teams that rhyme. Mets, Jets, and Nets. So
Oh, that's a good one. No,
interesting.
I was there until I was 12. So I was in the
Yeah,
Jersey,
that's
Derek
fair. I
Jeter
mean,
Yankees.
yeah.
wait, are we talking about baseball or something else now? Because I thought it was just.
Okay, you completely lost. I think this is a sign that we should finish the meeting. So
That's crazy.
okay, so yeah,
Thank you so much for joining
yeah.
on.
No, of course.
Sid's from the DMV. And he is in DC. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining on. It was great to hear from you. We'd love to follow up as a caucus to work with you on any other further things you guys are doing. It'd be so cool to work on something like any sort of projects that we're coming up with and all of that. The Muslim
Yeah,
Caucus is working on a couple like Gaza fundraising projects, so I'm sure
Okay.
they'd love to talk to you about that as well.
Yeah, no, please don't hesitate to reach out via email. And also, I think I connected you to Andre, or sent you
Yeah,
an email.
yeah.
So like, yeah, Andre is the chair of the DNC Youth Caucus. So like, please reach out to Andre. He's already excited to work with you. So please do it.
Yes, I will. Literally gonna send an email tonight. Thank you again so much. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Well, I appreciate y'all and hope you guys have a great weekend.
Yes,
Thank
Enjoy
you.
your time with your in-laws.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye. Have a good night.